Cuts to disability benefits aren't just political headlines, they're changes that could have a direct, lasting impact on your financial stability and quality of life. With Labour now at the helm, many are wondering, what exactly is changing, and how might it affect those relying on support like personal independence payment, PIP, attendance allowance, or employment and support allowance, ESA. The truth is, the proposed cuts and reforms are far from minor adjustments, they are part of a larger shift in how disability support is assessed and distributed across the United Kingdom. Under Labour's plan, significant changes could be introduced in how eligibility is determined, potentially making it harder for many to qualify or retain their current level of support. One of the key proposals includes a more stringent reassessment process aimed at reducing dependency, which critics argue is simply a cost-cutting measure that could leave thousands of vulnerable people without the help they need. Another concern is the possible tightening of criteria for mental health conditions, which are often harder to quantify but no less debilitating. For those over 60 or already receiving state pension alongside disability benefits, the ripple effects could be serious. It may mean fewer allowances, more paperwork, and longer wait times for assessments or appeals. And let's not forget the emotional toll. Worrying about whether your support will continue is stress no one needs, especially when health concerns are already front and center. This isn't just speculation. Experts, disability rights groups, and even some members within Labour are voicing serious concern about the potential real-world consequences. In this video, we'll break down exactly what's on the table, what Labour's leadership has said, and, most importantly, how it could impact you or someone you care about. So if you're looking for real facts, no fluff, and a clear explanation of how these disability benefit cuts could affect pensions, healthcare support, and more, stay tuned, because the next 10 minutes might just give you the insight you need to plan ahead. Tap like and share if you believe every senior deserves the truth about their benefits, and let's make sure everyone is prepared for what's coming. Let's start with the basics. What exactly has Labour proposed when it comes to disability benefits, and why is it causing such a stir? The heart of the matter lies in the government's drive to reform how disability-related payments are handled, under the belief that the current system is both financially unsustainable and, as they put it, open to misuse. Now, for many who've relied on disability benefits for years, perhaps even decades, this kind of language feels not only worrying but, frankly, insulting. The assumption seems to be that too many people are claiming benefits without justification, when in reality, countless individuals have gone through rigorous assessments, endless paperwork, and constant scrutiny just to receive the help they deserve. Labour's leadership has made it clear that they intend to review and modernise the current framework, focusing in particular on personal independence payment, or PIP, and employment and support allowance, ESA. These are lifelines for many seniors, especially those dealing with mobility issues, chronic conditions, or mental health challenges. What makes this shift so concerning is that the government isn't just talking about fine-tuning. There's talk of overhauling the assessment process, revisiting eligibility criteria, and potentially reducing the scope of support for what they consider less severe conditions. But as anyone who has dealt with disability knows, the severity of a condition isn't always obvious on paper. Just because a condition doesn't fit into a neat little box doesn't mean it's any less real or less deserving of support. There's been growing speculation that the reforms will involve outsourcing more assessments to private companies, similar to what happened years ago with the introduction of PIP. Remember how that went? Many people were declared fit for work, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, only to have to fight tooth and nail through appeal processes that dragged on for months, sometimes years. The fear now is that history might be repeating itself, with the added risk that budget cuts could lead to even harsher outcomes. Seniors, in particular, often lack the resources or energy to endure lengthy appeals. So, if benefits are wrongly denied or reduced, it's not just an inconvenience, it can mean real hardship. And let's not overlook how these changes might affect attendance allowance. For those who are over state pension age and have personal care needs, attendance allowance has been a vital source of support. While there's no official word on direct cuts to this benefit yet, experts warn that if PIP and ESA undergo major changes, attendance allowance could be next in line. After all, the justification used for cutting or restructuring PIP, namely, the claim of needing to manage the national budget more efficiently, could easily be applied to other benefits too. This brings us to the larger question: why now? Why is Labour pushing these changes at a time when cost of living pressures are already squeezing seniors from every angle? From rising energy bills to food prices that seem to climb higher every week, many pensioners are already struggling to stretch their income. For those with disabilities, expenses are even higher. You've got to factor in things like mobility aids, transport to and from medical appointments, specialist equipment, and sometimes even personal care or home adaptations. Cutting benefits in this context isn't just inconvenient, it's potentially devastating. Labour argues that reform is necessary to streamline the system and ensure that funds are directed to those who need them most. But that raises an uncomfortable question: who decides who needs support most? And by what criteria? The fear among seniors is that these reforms are less about fairness and more about numbers, about finding ways to spend less, regardless of the human cost. And let's be clear, if the criteria become stricter, if the assessments become tougher, or if the appeal process becomes more complex, it will be the most vulnerable who suffer first. There's also the matter of trust. Many seniors remember all too well the promises made by previous governments, promises to protect pensions, to support the elderly, to ensure dignity in later life. And yet, here we are, once again having to justify the need for benefits that should be seen as a basic right, not a privilege. For many, it feels like being punished for growing old or for having health issues that are beyond their control. Let's talk about the practical side for a moment. If you're currently receiving PIP or ESA, what should you expect? Well, while the full details haven't been rolled out yet, early signs suggest that reassessments could become more frequent, especially for those whose conditions are considered non-progressive. That could mean more letters through the post, more forms to fill in, more medical evidence to gather, and possibly more face-to-face assessments. And let's not pretend that these assessments are always fair or even accurate. There have been countless stories of assessors who lack medical knowledge or who dismiss genuine symptoms as exaggeration. For seniors, especially those with cognitive issues or mobility limitations, attending assessments can be not just stressful but physically challenging. There's also the psychological toll to consider. The constant fear of losing benefits creates a cloud of anxiety that affects every part of life. It's not just about the money, it's about security, independence, and dignity. Having to prove, over and over again, that you're unwell or disabled enough to qualify for help can feel degrading. It's a process that wears people down. And with the government focusing on reducing claims, many worry that assessments will be skewed towards denial rather than fair evaluation. One aspect that hasn't received much attention, but should, is the potential impact on carers. Many seniors rely on informal carers, family members, spouses, or friends, to help manage day-to-day tasks. These carers often depend on the financial support that comes from disability benefits to make caring possible. If those benefits are cut or delayed, it's not just the recipient who suffers. The carer's ability to continue providing help may be compromised, leading to more strain on the already overburdened NHS and social services. Now, some might ask, what can be done? Is there any way to push back against these changes? The answer is yes, but it requires awareness and action. Staying informed is the first step, which is why we're having this conversation now. The second step is making your voice heard. Contacting your local MP, engaging with advocacy groups, and sharing your experiences can put pressure on decision makers to reconsider harsh policies. Public outcry has stopped benefit cuts in the past, and it can again, but only if people speak up. There's also strength in community. Talking to others who are in the same boat can provide both emotional support and practical advice. Whether it's through local groups, online forums, or social clubs, staying connected can help you navigate the changes ahead. It's also a way to ensure that no one slips through the cracks, especially those who may not have the energy or ability to fight the system alone. Let's not forget the role of the media. Bringing real stories to light, stories of how benefit changes are affecting real people, can shift public opinion and force politicians to respond. That's why it's crucial to share your story if you're comfortable doing so. The more visibility these issues have, the harder it becomes for those in power to ignore them. As we move forward, it's important to remember that disability can happen to anyone, at any time. It doesn't discriminate by age, background, or political belief. And for seniors, the risk only increases with time. That's why this isn't just a debate about policy, it's about people's lives, about ensuring that no one is left behind or forgotten. So, where does that leave us? The reality is that change is coming, whether we like it or not. But by staying informed, staying vocal, and staying united, we can ensure that the changes don't come at the expense of the most vulnerable. We can demand that reforms be fair, compassionate, and grounded in the real needs of real people. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's that your voice matters. The government counts on people staying silent, on people giving up. But if we stand together, if we make it clear that we won't accept cuts that harm our communities, then we can make a difference. In the coming months, we'll be following this issue closely, keeping you updated, breaking down the latest developments, and offering tips on how to protect your rights. So be sure to stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with anyone who might be affected. Let's keep this conversation going, because when we speak together, we are stronger, louder, and impossible to ignore. The fight for fair support is one worth having, and together, we'll make sure our voices are heard.